All right, everybody, just hang in there. We're going to be live with you here in a second. We've got a great show today. We have Michael Cutler is going to be joining us, former INS agent. We're going to be talking to him a lot about not only what took place in Manchester, what continues to unfold in Manchester, but how that is going to convey itself here at home, which I think is the most important part of all. Also, we're going to have in here with me is Scarlett Fakar. Maybe most of you know her. She's been doing the DML reports here for quite some time. And hold on, you got it? Okay. And so Scarlett will be joining us in a second. She's getting herself all wired up and everything else to that nature. And you know, we may touch into some of the stuff that the president is doing right now with the Pope. The fact that the Pope handed him a book on climate change is pretty interesting. But give me a second. I have to send out the alert here. For everybody who's on the app. All right, email daily starts now. All right, we're going to talk about terror. Scarlett in studio. All right, in studio. Okay, Dennis can spell it sometime. And Michael Cutler. All right, and starts now. Tweet. All right, so we have that. All right, well, before we introduce Michael Cutler is going to be, he's going to be with us. I am looking at the numbers. We're about 1,400 right now. That will jump up to the 2,000s pretty quick. Let me bring in Scarlett Fakar. What are you going to go, camera 3? Tim? There we go, Scarlett. So there's your camera right there.
There it is.
All right,
hey.
So Scarlett's up here in New York from Texas. She's actually staying with her dad. He's right in New Jersey. And so she's up here with us now for the next 2 days, and we're going to be going over a bunch of different stuff, like They Come to America 4. She's spearheading that whole thing. Yep. But also about some of the other stuff we're going to be doing. She's making some commercials today for us. And we have been testing Harlan on the Hill. So we're also going to bring her in to do some of that stuff as well later on. In fact, we're going to play a clip from one of our tests of Harlan on the Hill, only because it is relevant to the stuff that we're going to be discussing today. So, all right, so we're over 2,000. So at that point, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. And like I said, Michael Cutler is with us via Skype. He's waiting for me to introduce him in. But I want to outline a few things here for you. Number one, I want to start off with showing a picture of some of the victims that, look at those lives lost over in Manchester, UK. I mean, you look at the faces there, you look at the life and the happiness and the smiles that are radiating, and you just have to ask yourself the question of why? Why did these people lose their lives? So unfortunately, I could answer that question for you with the next picture. Here is our friendly terrorist in the name of Allah. Can we throw up his picture, please? Yeah, Salman Abedi, 22 years old, son of Libyan refugees. You know, everything is in the name of Allah. We're going to be talking about all the signs that this guy had given, so this way the UK could have prevented this sort of thing. But as Michael Cutler's going to tell you, you know, we can't seem to stop this stuff because we've got our head buried in the sand. I'm going to bring him in a second to talk about that. I also want to bring up some stats that we had yesterday, which are very, very important for our conversation today. If we could bring up the stats of the number of, yeah, we go, terror in the UK, 3,500 potential terrorists right now in the UK, 400 of which are believed to be trained fighters from ISIS. 400 and 3,500. We know the numbers, but we can't do anything about it, right? That's unbelievable. Next thing. I'm going to play this clip. I'm going to play it in its entirety because it's very important to hear what this woman, Theresa May, has to say about what is happening right now in the UK. All right, so let's play that clip from beginning to end. Go.
This morning about the professionalism of the emergency services and the bravery of the people of Manchester. Through their actions, they proved that cowardice will always be defeated by bravery. that evil can be overcome by good, and that our values, the liberal, pluralistic values of Britain, will always prevail over the hateful ideology of the terrorists. In my statement earlier today, I said that the police and security services needed to investigate whether or not a BD was acting alone. Those investigations continue, but the work undertaken throughout the day has revealed that it is a possibility we cannot ignore, that there is a wider group of individuals linked to this attack. This morning I said that the Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre, the independent organisation responsible for setting the threat level on the basis of the intelligence available, was keeping the threat level under constant review. It has now concluded, on the basis of today's investigations, that the threat level should be increased for the time being from severe to critical. This means that their assessment is not only that an attack remains highly likely, but that a further attack may be imminent.
Yeah, you know what? That woman reminds me of Obama. She's like a female Obama with her statements. We'll get to that, you know, cowards and all this other different stuff. But we'll get that in a second. I'm laying out my case here. All right? Now, I want to replay a statement from President Trump yesterday, or I should say on Sunday, when he spoke to the Muslim leaders in Saudi Arabia. Play.
Out. Drive them out of your places of worship. Drive them out of your communities. Drive them out of your holy land. And drive them out of this earth.
Okay, drive them out. Remember that phrase, drive them out. Next, we're going to put up a statement from the Department of Homeland Security. Please put it up and I'll read it. Do we have the statement from the Department of Homeland Security? I'll start reading it. At this time, we have no information to indicate a specific credible threat involving music venues in the United States exists. However, the public may experience increased security in and around public places and events as officials take additional precautions. We stand ready to assist our friends and allies in the UK. All right, I was more interested there in about what was taking place in the US. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to bring in Michael Cutler. Michael Cutler is joining us via Skype. He is a former INS agent. He has spent decades and decades and decades on the immigration issue. He is, as far as I am concerned, the single #1 source for this sort of thing. I trust what he says immensely. He has been on this show before. He's been on this show. People have told me, we love this guy. The information he has is unbelievable. He has been in all of my They Come to America movies, and we're making another one, and I'll tell you, he'll be in that one as well. In fact, we may use today's segment as part of my film. That being said, Michael, before you say hello, Michael, and then Scarlett's going to have some questions for you. Let me say a few things here, and I want you to respond to them, okay? Number one, and my audience knows how much I absolutely adore and appreciate first responders. My entire family is made up of firemen. My entire family is made up of police. I have nurses, you name it. This woman, Theresa May, she's a nut as far as I'm concerned. For her to say there that the responders show that cowards will always fall to bravery because of first responders, and that good will always beat evil, and that, you know, everything going on is, you know, UK will prevail. You know what? Those first responders should be dealing with heart attacks. They shouldn't be dealing with bombs going off. They are failing. There is nothing proven by fixing people's limbs being off their body and picking up the dead that says we're winning this game. As far as I'm concerned, it's showing that the evil is beating the good and that the cowardless are beating the brave. I'm so disgusted with this sort of BS rhetoric, because what it does is it kicks the can down the road. And as far as what the president had to say in terms of driving them out, I'll tell you what, I wrote him a letter last night, the president. I do it every single night, and I know it goes to his personal assistant. I said to him, sir, with all due respect, it's not about driving them out. It's about taking them out. I don't want to drive them out, because when you drive them out, they come to us. When you drive them out, they go to the UK. I want them taken out. I want them taken out in their home countries. That's what should be doing. We shouldn't be giving anybody billions and hundreds of millions of dollars at all until they start taking these people out. That's where I stand. I'm never going to come off it, and I'm sick of the BS rhetoric that's going from all these different politicians. They need to be taken out, and I want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong, and if I'm right, how do we take them out, Michael?
Well, you're right. By the way, thank you for that wonderful compliment. It's a privilege to be on your show. And I have to make one point before we get into this. I've been watching news coverage, and there has not been a single mention of the word immigration in the news coverage. Think about that. Think about that. The 9/11 Commission, to which I provided testimony because I have arrested terrorists in my career, the 9/11 Commission made it abundantly clear that first and foremost, 9/11 and other attacks that occurred before then, and looking at what's happened since, again, the same story, it was primarily multiple failures of the immigration system that enabled the terrorists to enter the United States, embed themselves, hide in plain sight as they went about their deadly preparations. Yet, incredibly, if you look at the cavalcade of people that have been going on talking endlessly, some of it, reasonable, some of it utter babble just to fill the 24-hour news cycle, but not one single person, an immigration expert. And we haven't seen immigration experts on TV for years. After 9/11, I was averaging 15 interviews per month across the spectrum of all the networks. I don't get invited, that's fine, they're tired of me, okay, cool. Nobody who was a field agent for the INS or for ICE has been invited on the program to talk about immigration, terrorism, transnational gangs, and the death toll this is costing us.
I got it. Now, I got it. Address my question, please.
Now, taking them out in their home country is vital, but we also have to recognize the fact, Dennis, that you have sleepers operating in the United States. Some came here from another country. Some, like this piece of trash, apparently the son of refugees who came from Libya to England. We have got to go after this from a multi-pronged effort. You know, I write for Front Page Magazine, and one of the articles that I wrote is that we're fighting them here, there, and everywhere. Well, we have people say we're fighting them there so that we don't have to fight them here. That's insanity. When you see the mayor of New York provide sanctuary for illegal aliens, and if you look at the 9/11 Commission, it's diametrically opposed to that notion of sanctuary. Interestingly, the Commission said we must deprive the terrorists sanctuary, meaning overseas. Then why are we creating sanctuaries within our own borders? The mayor jumps up and says, well, now we're going to tighten security. Let's be honest. Is the threat greater today because of what happened in Manchester than it was last week? No. No.
Michael, let's talk about Manchester, actually. I'm going to step in here, and I want to ask you a question because I know a lot of people are wondering right now, how did this happen in that country? And so the first thing that I want to ask you specifically, so that we can answer some of these questions for ourselves, is what is the vetting process like in the UK?
I can't answer what the vetting process is like, but I've got to tell you the push for globalism is our enemy.
Okay.
Why do you think both political parties are hunting Donald Trump? Because he is a populist. He believes in national sovereignty. And to Republicans and Democrats alike, people say to me, oh, this guy's a conservative. Who cares? I'm a registered Democrat. I don't vote for Democrats these days because they're nuts. But this isn't left-right. This is about globalism. And as long as you have people looking to take down borders so they can move labor, cheap labor, and not just at the bottom rung, high-tech workers, whatever, move commerce. It's all about greed. As long as the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is more concerned with head counts on airplanes than body counts at the morgue, This is going
right.
to
I understand the concern, and I want to know what our vetting process is like here. I mean, Trump is saying that we're going to be making changes. What could possibly be changing here in the next couple of months, weeks, years, or what is our vetting process lacking right now?
Well, you know, this is kind of like the movie The Minority Report. I was an inspector for the first 4 years of my career. So I want everyone to understand how tough this is, especially from visa waiver countries. That program should have ended. We had 26 visa waiver countries on 9/11. We're now up to 38 visa waiver countries. George W. Bush and Barack Obama both added to those lists. They should be zero, number one. Number two, understand that consular officials only get a couple of minutes to interview an applicant for a visa. The inspector at the airport is under pressure to move a passenger a minute. So how carefully, you know, you run fingerprints, but how do you know what's in someone's heart? If you take a 23-year-old kid with no known record, and he comes in and says, I want to be a tourist, I've got $1,000, I plan to stay a week, what do you do? And that's the problem. And you see, most of the people involved with terrorism may not even be known prior to the attack. In the case of this trash that pulled this thing off in England, he apparently was on the radar scope.
Right. So what's the answer here? I mean, how do we prevent this from happening in the United States? An attack like Manchester. We have concerts here every single day, huge events. I mean, now people are concerned. What do we do?
Well, look, there's no perfect solution, but it's got to start by enforcing immigration laws. Because understand, what did this guy do before the attack in England? He traveled possibly to Syria. They believe he traveled to Libya. Look at the 9/11 Commission. In fact, they issued a separate report. Their staff did. 9/11 and terrorist travel. We know that they are traveling frequently to attend meetings, to get training, to move money, to move people. There are terror training camps in Latin America, in the tri-border region of Brazil. We have Iranian shock troops arriving on weekly flights into Caracas, Venezuela, and you have members of Congress not willing to build a wall on the border.
Look, Michael, one of the things, I don't want to start driving into stuff with the wall or whatever it may be, because you know and I know that these cells and these independent actors and these lone wolves, a lot of these guys, a lot of these gals, they're already here in the U.S. And one of the things that I have a major problem with, and that we spoke about yesterday on yesterday's show, and Harlan brought up the fact that, you know, we need more resources in the FBI. And I know what your take is, because you were an INS agent. You say we don't have enough ICE agents. We've got 8 ICE agents, but when you look at the amount of ICE agents we have compared to the amount of U.S. citizens and illegals and people who have overstayed their visas, the number's crazy. In fact, I know you've compared it before. Look at how many police officers we have in New York City to just try to take care of 12 million people, and we only have a fraction of that trying to hunt down people within 350 million in the country. I get that. What I have a bigger problem with right now is the fact that if you look at the different attacks that we've had in this country, and they match to this nut job who did what he did in Manchester, I think the FBI at this point is sitting there with a 10, and I don't know if it's 10 points, but I'm just going to spin it a little bit here. They got a 10-point checklist. And they sit down and they say, okay, well, in order to really pursue this guy, he's got to check off 6 of those 10 boxes. Well, okay, Mohammed only got to 5 boxes. We're going to let him go. And then when you let him go, the nut job tries to blow up Chelsea in New York City. When you let him go, then what happens is, they wind up pulling out another terrorist attack. When you let him go, when the parents know that this kid over in the UK wanted to get his passport, they were going to take his passport away because they were afraid that he was going back to do something wrong. And he says, oh, no, I just want to go study somewhere. All these telltale signs, they're there, but because they don't go beyond the total checks, Michael, these people are just basically being forgotten about, and then they just come back later to make us pay for it dearly.
Well, I will tell you, that's part of it. But right now, there's a piece of legislation that was just introduced by Raul Labrador, a congressman from, I believe, Idaho, called the Davis-Oliver Act. It's H.R. 2431. It would go after sanctuary cities. It would call for hiring 12,500 additional ICE agents. It's not perfect legislation, but goodness gracious, it goes a long way to addressing vulnerabilities where public safety and national security are concerned. Trey Gowdy tried this twice before. In fact, I exchanged a couple of emails with Trey yesterday. We know each other. We've had phone conversations. He used to chair the House Immigration Subcommittee. He's now over at the Crime and Terrorism Subcommittee as chairman. And he tried to get this kind of legislation enacted twice before. For all of you out there, and you can go to Front Page Magazine, and if you read my article, I really lay out why this is important, all the components that we're looking at. My article is about the Davis-Oliver Act. If you like it, post it on social media. We've got to get American people to go to their elected representatives and bluntly tell them to stop screwing around. You know, there was just an Inspector General report that was still trying to track the entry and departure of aliens. And there was just a statistic, I think it's over 600,000 aliens enter with visas and then violate the terms of their visas every year. Well, when you put that together, when you look that 19 terrorists barely out of their teens on 9/11 killed more people than did the whole Japanese fleet at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. And by the way, the requirement for tracking the arrival and departure of aliens goes back to the immigration reform legislation of exactly 21 years ago, 1996. And in fact, I testified at a hearing 11 years ago about visa overstays. Can we close the terrorist door at the International Relations Committee in Washington, in the House?
Let me ask you something.
Think of that
Michael.
title. And I just want to make this one point.
Okay.
Do you know they gave Accenture billions of dollars in 2004 to create an entry and departure system? Nothing was done. They took the money and accomplished nothing. And they're basically starting from zero. And when those agents go into the databases now to see if an alien is here legally, illegally, if he's wanted, whatever, the report from the OIG, this is going to blow everybody's mind. Fasten your seatbelt. The agents need, in some instances, 40 separate passwords to look at 40 separate databases. How this isn't consolidated so that you pull up one name and everything you need to know is right under that name boggles my mind. The only way that I can explain this to you folks, this is what I call failure by design.
Well, let me ask
We
you.
sent men to the moon. We won the second.
All right, Michael.
Michael.
Scarlett has a question for you.
Yeah, let me ask you. I mean, we're talking about all of these refugees coming into the country. We have so many. I just want to know what, in your opinion, what is the value of all of these refugees that we have coming into the United States? I mean, what do they offer us? What is the value in that?
It's a great question. And, you know, I've been a big fan of refugees in the past. I'm Jewish. My grandmother died in the Holocaust. My mom came here at the age of 14 legally and lived by herself in a rooming house. But we can't vet these people. And I went to Minnesota, and I did ride-alongs with the sheriffs. I was in their jails. I was in the jail cell where Moussaoui, the 20th hijacker, was held when they grabbed him in Minnesota. And you have a Somali community that is so tight-knit. It's an enclave. These folks are not coming with the mindset that my mom or my dad's parents did, or most families come, I want to be American. They are living in a tight-knit community, having very little to do with the rest of America. We've encouraged this. You have politicians pandering to blocks of voters. When you have politicians and pollsters talking about Latino voters, why would Americans, whether their last name is Rodriguez or Goldstein, want to have criminals and terrorists enter America? This identity politics game that, oh, we just have a new enclave that we have to appeal to so that one day they'll vote for us is toxic.
Michael, I don't want to go into voting right now. I want to stick to completely on.
That's part of the answer, though.
No, I understand that, Michael. Michael, I understand that completely. I understand that a lot of the political correctness is what's driving this. A lot of the desire for cheap labor is what's driving this. A lot of the desire for votes, because
beyond that, Dennis.
I know that, Michael. But listen, I want to stick right now. We've got a terrorist attack that just took place in Manchester. We've got a president who has been trying to get through extreme vetting. We've got a court system and a pool of Democrats who basically don't want that to happen. And the loss of lives, as far as I'm concerned, has to go beyond the fact that it is a number on a spreadsheet. Because, seriously, Michael, I've been doing this now for a long time. I'm getting tired of showing pictures of victims. I'm getting tired of having, somebody upstairs make me a chart of how many numbers of people have been killed, and all it becomes is a damn number. I have another question when I want to tap into your INS expertise. Right, one of the problems we have right now is that people are complaining about the privacy issues, right? The privacy issues of being inspected at the airports, or the privacy stuff about, traveling in and out. I was at Disneyland with my kids not so long ago. And we were there in the Epcot Center, and it was dark out, and it was during the Christmas holiday, and there was Christmas music being played, and everybody was there, they had their candles, or whatever it may be, and not far from me, and I went right over to it, was a line of women that were all Muslim, dressed from head to toe, completely in their burqa. The only thing I can see was this. And they're sitting there, watching the entire Christmas carols being sung. We've got thousands of people sitting there, and I'm saying to myself, boy, all right, either A, they're really enjoying the Christmas music and maybe thinking about converting over, or number two is they're hunting this place out. Why are we allowing these people to come over here in that kind of dress and that kind of garb, walking around at times when we've got all of our threat levels lifted to the highest amount? Where does it stop, Michael? As an INS agent, I want you to answer this. I don't want you to come to me with policy and theory. I want you to come to me with serious handbook stuff. What are we allowed to do and what are we not allowed to do in the inspection process, especially when it comes to privacy?
Okay. Well, first of all, let's look at the executive order that Donald Trump promulgated about keeping out, at least for 90 days, aliens who can't be vetted. Okay? If you look at Title 8, United States Code Section 1182F, the president, by himself, unilaterally, for as long as he deems appropriate, if it's against America's interests, it doesn't even talk about terrorism, nuclear weapons, or anything. If it's against the best interest of the United States, by himself can decide to keep out any alien or class of aliens, including immigrants and non-immigrants, for as long a period of time as he deems necessary. When the courts ruled against that, what they really did was carve out a chunk of executive authority that's been in place for decades. It's a chunk of executive authority that I will tell you was used by Barack Obama. It was used by Jimmy Carter when he banned Iranians from entering the United States after our embassy was overrun. And in fact, I was one of the agents who was tasked with going out there and spending 100% of my time looking for Iranians who had gone missing in the United States because it was seen as a threat to national security. So when the courts step in and said, whoa, you can't do that, because during the campaign, Donald Trump said something, and it sounds as though this is a Muslim ban. And by the way, even your conservative news programs, how did they describe the countries that we're talking about? They called them Muslim majority countries. Yet, all of those countries in the aggregate only account for, I believe it's 15% of the world's Muslim population. These were failed countries, countries associated with terrorism. But yet, look at the way the news covered it, and that includes the conservative stations, all refer to these as Muslim majority countries. The courts trampled Trump's authority to protect America and Americans. And once again, what you were looking at is globalism. And by the way, Dianne Feinstein, on February 24th, 1998, 2 days short of the 5th anniversary of the bombing of the World Trade Center that left 6 dead and over 1,000 people injured and inflicted $500 million in damage, said at a hearing that the Senate had on foreign terrorists operating in the United States, she had 3 points to make. Dianne Feinstein, number one, perhaps we should end the visa waiver program. It was a pilot program then. Well, I agree. Maybe we should stop issuing visas to aliens who come from countries that sponsor terrorism. Nobody rioted. The court judges didn't faint and pass out. And then she said, and we really need to reconsider providing education for those aliens from terror-sponsoring countries so that they're becoming nuclear physicists and biochemists. We're teaching our enemies to make weapons of mass destruction. So this is before 9/11. This was 3 years before 9/11. And look what we did after 9/11. When DHS was created, and I was at the hearing where the chairman, John Hostetler, made the point, DHS was configured to fail at securing our borders and enforcing our immigration laws, even though the enabling legislation, the Homeland Security Act, and I've been before 17 of these damn hearings, by the way, the Homeland Security Act was designed to bolster border security, designed to bolster immigration enforcement, and the Bush administration took those laws and the findings, chopped it, sliced it, diced it, cut immigration into 3 or 4 components, and made it impossible for the job to get done. Obama comes in, and if it was bad under Bush, I became nostalgic for Bush. Obama came to office, and that's why we've got a disaster on our hands. That's why the United States lacks a clear vision, and people are so confounded. They don't know what to say, what to do, or what to think, because what we're doing defies common sense.
All right, Mike. Well, listen, it's 12 o'clock. I had to divide the show in half today. We wanted to talk about the stuff with Manchester.
I hope this is helpful to you and your audience. Please go to my website, michaelcutler.net. That I do ask, because I want to keep educating your folks, and I want to thank you for your efforts to do just that.
All right, Michael. Thank you so much. Thanks for your insight. I appreciate it in a big way. All right, for the second half of the show here, we're going to shift gears and talk about Seth Rich and what took place last night on Fox News with Sean Hannity, and what's going on with what I thought was going to be an investigative, journalistic sort of investigation into that. Before we dive completely into that, I do want to ask Scarlett a couple of questions. Mm-hmm. You live in Texas. You see the illegal immigration issue bigger and better than any other state, maybe with the exception of California, right? And you've been doing reporting for quite some time.
Right.
But for the last couple of months, you have been spearheading the pre-production phase of They Come to America For the Cost of Refugees, and you've had to do a lot of research. When you take what you knew as just being a smart person and a reporter and a Texan, mm-hmm. and then you take what you've learned now that you have been studying this thing, how would you compare?
Oh my gosh. I mean, first off, I loved watching your documentaries. Just watching your first 3 was the start of me getting myself into everything and learning, the basics of it all. So that was the first start. So if you haven't watched those documentaries, you should. That's a great start. But as far as diving even more into the research, I'm learning so much about actually the vetting process for these people to come into the United States, the way that they're assimilating, what they're having to deal with when they're here. There's so much to it. It's not just, now that they're here, it's the process of getting here and the struggle that they have, not only the struggle that people, in our country are worried about, why are hundreds of Syrian refugees coming to my city, my town, my small area, but, them themselves and the struggles and the issues that they're facing too. So I've learned so much, and I think that this is going to be eye-opening for everybody because I'm still learning new facts every day.
So one of the things that you have, and I know because what happens is Scarlett sends me the stuff that she's researched, and we figure out what we're going to put and what we're not going to put into the films. And one of the things that you've sent back is the fact that a lot of times these refugees are coming over, they can't speak the language, they can't assimilate the way that we need immigrants to assimilate, and so what happens is finding a job for them becomes almost an impossibility. And yesterday I had laid out the fact that when you look at some of these terrorists over in Europe, there's such a high unemployment rate. And so when these kids, these youngsters, I call them kids because of my age, but when they're young 20s, teenagers, whatever, and they have nothing to aspire to, especially a job, that they start to lose their way. And that's the number one way they become radicalized. My concern, and what you've done in your research, because I've learned things as you've sent them to me, seeing of how many of these people aren't finding jobs and are staying on the U.S. taxpayers' dollar, if you will, okay, between food stamps and between housing allowances and you name it. My concern is that after a while of being unhappy here, of having nothing to aspire to, of having no feeling of this is my home, that they too will radicalize, and we're going to thus have ourselves a much bigger problem than we recognize. Because what I was trying to get out of Michael Cutler, and I couldn't get it out of him, and I know Michael long enough that, he's been on my television show before, and his mind, he's got 15 trains coming in, and he wants to get every train to be seen. What I wanted him to explain, and I don't know if it came out in that, is I wanted him to say, first we do this, and first we do that, and first we do this, and first we do that. Not why we having them come over, what we do when they are here. And the fact of the matter is that when you look at the amount of refugees that we do have coming over here versus how many are actually causing problems, you would say to yourself, okay, it's a small number. It's still too many. It's a small number. But my issue is that my issue is not what's right now. My issue is what's to come.
Yeah, and that's safe to say, especially learning about how hard it is for them to make lives here. So everything that you're saying is safe to assume, at least. You can't rule it out at all. I mean, people can say, well, yeah, there's just a small percentage, but that percentage can grow because these people that are coming over are young. Like you said, they're not being able to find jobs. Some of them, you know, didn't do well in school or didn't even go to school at all in their own country. And now they're coming over here and they're facing all of these difficulties. And we've seen time and time again, a lot of these people that have made and done some of these terroristic attacks have been young people that have been influenced easily because they have really nothing going for them right now. And we're not making it any easier. And we're trying to help you guys understand, you know, what happens when they come here, what these communities are like, what resources we are giving them once they get here. Is it easy? Is it hard? And so it's very, like you said, it's an eye-opening thing and experience that I'm learning myself putting together this new documentary. And I think everyone's going to really learn something from it and see why we should be worried once they get here, not just who's coming that's already bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's more than just the idea of one of these people going into a local Walmart with a machete or a gun or a bomb. I mean, that's obviously there. That's always a component. But, you know, a lot of the things that never get reported are the people who are on that unemployment, the people who are collecting these taxpayer dollars, the amount of rapes, the amount of domestic abuse that happens. A lot of this stuff is never, ever reported, and the reason being is because it doesn't make a splashy headline. Now, I can tell you from DennisMichaelLynch.com, and you know you've written a lot of these articles for us, is that when we put up one of those articles that says rape from a refugee, blah, 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 I mean, the thing gets shared unbelievably. And so it is, I do know the audience. I do have my finger on what their pulse is. And I understand what's bothering them, and they want more of that brought to the light. But the mainstream media, and even now Fox News to a certain degree, won't touch it. They won't touch it. I mean, look at CNN. CNN cut away from this terror attack in Manchester to cover the Russia probe.
Yeah, they're afraid, and it's just, again, it's political correctness. It's people not wanting to make it sound like they're anti-immigration, and I don't want to sound myself like I'm anti-immigration, but you have to report the facts as it is. You have to report if there are concerns, what the concerns are, you know, and so you can't hide these facts. I don't think it's right for some of the mainstream media, which, like you just said, most of them are. They're ignoring it, and they don't want to report on it because they're afraid of the what the public's going to say, you know, it's a small percentage and things like that. But, you know, it's a percentage and there's a vetting process. You're coming to the best country in the world, you know, and so there should be a process for you to get here that's reliable and safe for all of us. Agreed.
Yeah, and, you know, just because you are a pro-America or pro-safety doesn't mean that you're anti-something.
Exactly.
You know
oh my gosh, my dad's from Iran. Hello. But, you know, it was much different then. He came here with a purpose immediately, went to school, got his, you know, job, is, you know, doing our country a service. And now we've got, you know, immigrants that I feel like, you know, don't have a clear path when they get here. It's just like, oh, you want to come over? Come over, do what you want. Sit there. Don't do anything. Yep. So, you know, and it's much different. So there should be a standard.
Okay. Now, I do want to make the shift over to Seth, Seth Rich. Before that, though, I do want to say something. I forgot to say that. I wanted to ask Michael about it when I was saying what I was saying to him about my experience with Disney. You know, one of, and anybody could go back and take a look at this. You will find this. You will find this, me saying this. I can't recall if I said it on Fox or if I said it on one of the radio shows, but I was saying it for a while. It was a narrative I was carrying for a while. Is that, you know, oh, I remember I said this to Rudy Giuliani as well. I was talking to Rudy Giuliani, interviewing him for They Come to America Too. And he said to me, I don't think we're going to see another 9/11 like the one we saw. And I said to him, I disagree with you. And he says, well, that's going to be really hard to top. You know, it's going to be really hard to top. I said, no, it's not. Here's how you top that. As painful as it was for America to look at its greatest financial institution, its huge buildings in Manhattan coming down and people jumping from 80 stories. I mean, I get the chill while I talk about it because I was there watching it that day and running from the buildings. But, you know, as painful as that was for us, there's one thing that would be more painful, and that was a severe attack on Disney. Because if you had anybody come in from planet Jupiter and they said to you, show me the one place that represents really what America can be. Some people would take you to the World Trade Center and say, look at this. This is prosperity. This is this, this. I would take them to Disney and say, this is happiness. This is what we do. We could have people from all over the world and little children. This is happiness. Look what we created. And there's something about seeing children be killed than watching adults be killed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I put up this 8-year-old girl. I'm still all watery about it every time I look at her. And so my great concern is that, you know, when they figure out that's the next step, is you want to wreck this American culture, you start taking away the children, you start doing stuff to children. I mean, it starts to become...
And they don't care. These terrorists do not care. They just targeted a teenage young audience concert in the UK, in Manchester, England. I mean, this is the kind of, Disney is a great example, and these are our kids. That scares me. Oh my gosh, the fact that you just said that exactly gives me the chills. Don't even want to think about it, but the main thing is they don't care.
See, now I know you're just saying that and saying it, but see what you just said? You said, I don't even want to think about it. And that's where I get really pissed off, because it is hard to think about. It's very hard to think about. It's hard to digest. It's hard to imagine. It's hard to face. And that's why I see all these politicians, and they give speeches, and they give all this other different crap, and they kick the can down the road. And you know what? We always chase problems. We don't get in front of them. And in order to get in front of them, we have to look at these pictures of these poor children and everything else like that that were destroyed but by some maniac in the name of Allah. And we've got to get ahead of it. We've got to imagine it and see it in our head and say, I don't want to have this happen. What do I have to do? And we just don't do it.
You're right, you're right. And in that, it's part of the mainstream media's responsibility to show it and show it again and again and again. I don't disagree with you on that. As much as I say I don't want to see it, I'm right there with you. It needs to be out there. We need to see it, be hit home with it every day, and remind ourselves something has to change.
Every day. And then the problem with that is that when you do that, right? And this is where, you know, we'll get, and this is what I get all the time. I'm seeing it more now than ever as our numbers continue to go up. You know, somebody will take somebody like me and then all of a sudden stick you with the, you're a radical. Radical? You got to be kidding me. You know, radical? I got 4 kids, a wife. I don't do anything radical. I'm the most boring guy in the world. But because I know that this threat exists, and because I just don't want to play into the soundbite television, and oh gee, how horrible, and then you click away to see the sports score. Yeah, you know, that's just not, you know, that's what happens. And it doesn't, it won't hit people until it actually takes one of their loved ones. And when it takes one of their loved ones and your life is impacted by this, and every morning you got to wake up and you got to ask yourself that question, why? Why? Why didn't we do anything? You know how many people I've met along the way that just, you know, they grab my hand, thank you for what you do, because they're a victim of it. You know, it just, it breaks me off my heart. So we could actually, you know what, that's a good transition, because we'll talk about, we're going to talk about Seth Rich right now. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Seth Rich thing, in fact, toss his pictures up if we've got the videos, Timmy. Seth Rich, okay, was a DNC employee. He was a staffer, okay? He was in charge of, unless I'm grossly mistaken if I'm forgetting this, but I think I'm pretty much spot on. I think he was in charge of voter data. All right, he managed that whole data aspect. So he had his hands into these servers, okay? That's a very important part. This man, Seth Rich, is walking home one day at nighttime, right before the election in the summer, and the WikiLeaks is talking about how it is that they're going to start to drip, 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 all these emails coming out. And this gentleman, Seth Rich, is walking home. He had left a restaurant bar, I believe, He had made a bunch of phone calls on his way home. He was in a nicer area of Washington, D.C., and he gets mugged. Okay? Mugged. Now, you know, it's fine. Last night I was at dinner with my kids, and my son and I, and my son was asking me, Dad, you know, he was playing the role of sell this to me. And I said, okay, look, if you've ever been mugged by anybody, or if you've ever been confronted by somebody, even if they come up from behind, they say, don't move, give me your wallet, give me your keys, give me whatever it may be. Okay. Most of the time, they're going to come right up to you, and they're going to say, give me whatever it is, and they're going to let you see that they're done. In Seth Rich's, unless the police report comes out with something completely different, everything that we've heard so far, he got shot in the back.
Yeah.
Okay. None of his belongings are missing. There was no sign of struggle, no sign of fight, no shirt ripped. Okay? There is no missed bullet misfired. So in other words, if you came up to me, one of the things I'm trained in is if somebody comes up to you with a gun, if you're with me with the gun right there, and I really do think you're going to pose a threat, I'm going to try to get closer to you. I'll tell you why. Take that pen in your hand and just hold it towards me. I'm defenseless at this point, right? But if I come a little bit closer to you, right, and I'm saying, please don't shoot, please don't shoot. Okay, you see that? All right, it takes 2 seconds.
Very good.
Thank you.
We'll have to practice that after the
Okay, so now I would do that a lot harder if it wasn't a pen and if it was actually a gun.
Right.
And so if I go to do that, that bullet's going to shoot off the other way. I still may wind up dead,
Right.
but that bullet's going to end up the other way. I didn't hurt your arm, did I?
No.
I did it light.
No.
Yeah, I did it light. Okay.
Scarlett
Harlan
needs
to the rescue.
email after thing, Harlan.
There comes the lawsuit, Harlan.
No, we're good.
All right. So anyhow,
I wasn't expecting it that way.
you weren't expecting it, and that's the thing. Neither would the guy with the gun.
Right.
Because he's got the power, and I'm like, hey, don't hit me, don't hit me. Boom. You know, like that, and it happens that quick. So either I got the gun that way and I hit him to the face, or I got the gun out of his hand and I crack him again and I run. So, you know, if Seth Rich, you're in that kind of situation, it's helter-skelter. But when you got some guy who's been shot in the back, his wallet is still there, his watch is still there. It's a robbery. It's a mugging gone bad at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. What went bad? Most people are all sleeping at that given time. So it's not like 50 people were outside, because if they were outside, where's the camera getting this? Every single last time you turn over another stone, this comes down to this guy took these emails and gave them to WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks, who has not in 11 years ever been wrong. Nobody has come and said, I didn't write that email. Nobody's ever come and said anything other than, I don't like the way you're disseminating your information and gathering it. But nobody has ever denied it. Perfect track record for 11 years. Who has that? Nobody. That guy, Julian Assange, has multiple times tweeted out stories about Seth Rich. That's his way of saying, hey, you're on to the right track. You know,
Right.
He has said that he's never received anything from any government, including the Russians. Okay? This is what we have all laid out with this Seth Rich. Okay. Now, Hannity was enticed by a tweet that he had seen. Don't put up the tweet yet. I'll call for them. Hannity was enticed by a tweet that he had seen from this guy named Kim.com, an entrepreneur. He's an internet entrepreneur. He's in trouble for piracy and copywriting and you name it. So therefore, his credibility is low. Okay, so we have to take that into consideration.
Yep.
Okay, but we also have to take into consideration that Sean Hannity was willing to listen to this guy. I know Sean; he's a credible dude, and he wouldn't just be flowery, loosey-goosey with this sort of thing. In addition to that, Sean has been carrying this story about Seth Rich, had an investigator on who he said he's known for many years and is a very credible guy and has never left him to believe that he was disseminating false information. So Sean's getting engaged in this. He is doing what I'm doing right now. He smells something rotten. Okay? All right. He smells something rotten. So Hannity puts out a tweet last night. Put up the first tweet, the one Hannity truth tweet. He asks people to please retweet. Okay, to be clear, I am closer to the truth than ever. Not only am I not stopping, I am working harder. Updates when available, stay tuned. Okay? Now, I want to put up another tweet. This tweet is from Kim.com. Put this up. Kim.com says, I knew Seth Rich. I knew he was the source. I was involved. Okay. Put the next one up, which is the Russia tweet. He puts up the Russia tweet, which says, calling bluff. Right? Hold on. Let me get this in front of me. Where is this? Calling bluff all in. There is no Russia collusion hacking. Let me also say that Kim.com is, in addition to being an internet entrepreneur, he's a hacker. He's a hacker. Okay. Yesterday, Fox News retracted its statement, its reporting on Seth Rich, saying that it didn't meet our journalistic measures, we're pulling it, we don't have the evidence, la-di-da-di-da-di. Seth Rich's parents and the son reached out to Fox News, asked them to please stop with this conspiracy theory that Sean Hannity is pushing. Do not politicize our son's death. All right? You know, there's no indication, there's no hard proof that he was the guy who gave these emails over to WikiLeaks. Okay, fine, they do that. Sean goes on last night, and Sean Hannity said this on his show. Play.
For the family's wishes for now. I am not discussing this matter at this time. So I want to say this to you, my loyal audience, which is very important. Please do not interpret what I'm saying tonight to mean anything. Don't read into this. I promise you I am not going to stop doing my job. To the extent of my ability, I am not going to stop trying to find the truth. That's what we do here every single day.
Okay. So basically, Sean Hannity is getting attacked in the same way they attacked O'Reilly. And they are going after his advertisers, this big, huge push. George Soros and Media Matters, they're all going after him. They want to see him gone because at the end of the day, Sean Hannity is an institution. He's got his big TV, he's got his big radio, and he's the one guy who's going to sit there and go a little extra. And what do I mean by that? I'll give you a little proof. I like Tucker Carlson, know him. I know O'Reilly. I know Megyn very well, Megyn Kelly when she was there. The only guy to ever get out of his seat and actually go do any investigative reporting is Sean Hannity. He's been down to the border as many times as I have. He's the one guy who gets out of the studio and says, let me go take a look, okay? So they are 100% trying to shut him down. There is no question in my mind whatsoever. And I know it pains him to do what he just did because I know he truly believes that there is something under these covers if he continues to continue. And Sean Hannity is a credible guy. All right? Now, I want to play a clip so this way you understand how this all comes together a bit. We have been practicing Harlan on the Hill. I told you that. We're practicing his show. So we're running dummy shows, but we're using it with real information, real stuff that's going on. I'm going to play a clip from you from our demo show yesterday about this specific topic. Play.
Are you saying that Donna Brazile tried to interfere here to shut down this story? I mean, is that what the allegation is?
That's what the report is. Rod Wheeler has pointed a finger at Donna Brazile, saying she was the one who wanted to know why an outside investigator was poking around into Seth Rich's murder.
Okay, so we got Donna Brazile, who has already been identified from WikiLeaks as being completely dishonest, a complete liar, doing everything she possibly could to get Hillary Rodham Clinton elected president. She did everything. She was unethical. She didn't worry about her job. She didn't worry about her reputation. She was moving forward. She is calling the parents of Seth Rich, after this investigator that Hannity had on, calling them and saying, why is he down at the police station asking questions? Meanwhile, the investigator said that Seth Rich, at the time that he had left, was having a problem with one of the people at the DNC. It turns out that it is Donna Brazile, okay? So this is all coming together. It's all coming together. And you got to understand that this Russia narrative, this is the only thing that the Democrats have been holding on to with both hands. And I had said this the day after the election. They're going to use Russia as the thing to try to take down Trump. It's dishonest. There's nothing there. Everybody's been coming out and saying there's nothing there. They're dragging out these investigations. Nobody has ever showed anybody what the upside for Russia is with having Trump. We do know that they got a uranium deal from Hillary Clinton. There is absolutely no proof that there was any collusion. There is no proof of what Russia is getting from Donald J. Trump. We have nothing of this. And they keep this narrative, and the mainstream media keeps pushing at it. And now the only guy we had, the only person we had on the team of the truth that has a real sizable audience, Sean Hannity, has now been taken out by the knees as far as I'm concerned. We ran a poll. I know you have this at the end, guys. I want to put the poll up now, if you can. We ran a poll. Are you disappointed with the fact that Sean Hannity has pulled out of having to get involved in this Seth Rich case? 87% of you so far have said yes. If you haven't taken that poll, go to DennisMichaelLynch.com. I am going to send the results of this to Sean Hannity. I email him. He emails me back. I emailed him last night. I told him my own story of how it is that I believe I got fired and removed from Newsmax because I was digging into this story. I had, Scarlett, I don't even know if you and I ever talked about this. I had the #1 show on Newsmax every single night, hands down. By 4 times my ratings was higher than everybody else. I was the only host that didn't have to go to the Newsmax TV meetings. It was Dennis could do whatever he wants. He's going to bring in the numbers. He's going to do fine, whatever. It wasn't until a Monday night, August 8th in the summer, that I brought up this Seth Rich thing. I laid it all out, how it seemed really bad. The next day, I get an official letter from management saying, you no longer dictate the topics of your show. The next day, because they know I'm not going to throw Roger Ailes and Hannity and Fox News under the bus on air when I'm there, there's no way, okay? They turn around and make me play a clip. They want me to play a clip about knocking Roger Ailes. I said, I'm not doing this. They knew it. They were trying to make me quit. And what they do, they pulled me right off air. This is a guy who pulled me off air. This is a guy who has donated over $1 million to Hillary Rodham Clinton. They try to portray the guy who owns Newsmax as being somebody who was a champion for Trump. No. No. He wanted one thing, to make America Great Again hats fly off the shelf. Okay, that was the only thing. And I am willing to go to the actual depths of the ocean to prove it and to show it. I know what I know. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I don't buy into conspiracy guys. I'll say his name for the first time here. I never like or listen to what Alex Jones has to say. I think it's a fear game. I think it's an act. He could do whatever he wants to do. We all have our shtick, okay? But I don't buy into any of this stuff. I don't look into any of this stuff. I just shrug it off. This is not kosher with me, what's going on with this Seth Rich. And I understand his parents say they don't want to politicize their son, but at the end of the day, their son was political. He worked for the DNC. How much more political do you want to get? If my child, God forbid, was murdered, I would want to look under every rock to get the answers to that. And so I'm confused. I'm confused as to why this is the way it is. I'd like somebody, and I know this sounds a little bit unheartly on my end, I'd like somebody to look into the Riches. Were they tied into the DNC? Or are they being threatened right now that you better shut this down, you better shut this up, you better do, I mean, who knows what those poor parents are going through at this time, Scarlett? And I want you to weigh in a second, because I want to lay this all out. I want to lay this all out. Sean Hannity ended his show last night by saying, I'll see you tomorrow night, maybe, you know, if I'm here. And now today, he's tweeting out things that, I mean, I've been following Sean. I've known Sean for a while. He put my career on the map as far as I'm concerned, give me an hour on his show to sell my movies. Can you put up the last one that he tweeted out, Stand with Sean? Thank you for all my friends. I don't know if I have it here. I think it's, do I have this in front of me? Because I can't see it with the stuff. But bottom line is, They're stand with Sean, okay? And he knows he's under attack. He knows he's under fire. And I'm sure, because he did not respond to my email last night. And he always responds to my email. And I'm sure that he is at the point where he's just got to keep his mouth shut, and it's probably burning him. You, Joe.
Well, I just think one of the things is you just asked why. You explained everything very clearly for everybody, and it's just why? Why is this happening? Why is this such a big deal right now? And I just think that the main thing is that everything is changing. The media is changing. It has changed since I started in my profession, and it will continue to change. I don't know until it's just crazy, but it's the liberal media. They don't want any other side but their side to be told when it comes to politics, the news, to stories, and everything like that. And I think right now one of the main points that you made was Russia has been the headline on CNN, on MSNBC, on NBC, and all of these different things. Russia hacking, Russia, is involved. Is Russia, Trump has tied to Russia, in March of such and such of this event. And then there's one thing that may, kind of blow all of this out of proportion, one story, and whether or not people believe it's true, it's a story, and it's there. This guy tweeted that he may have evidence. I know that there's some question to how reputable he is, but he nonetheless tweeted that he may have some evidence that Seth did in fact leak these emails. So Hannity, like you said, I believe he did the right thing. Question the guy, hey, come on my show. Let's talk about it. It's a story. It's there. You're saying this. You're saying that you're getting the FBI involved. You're saying that you're talking to police officials on the subject matter. So it's a story. I mean, I've been a journalist for a long time. You are allowed to dig into things that you think, could spark a lot of interest. But I think that people, as soon as it has anything to do with anything negative or, I guess you would say, positive about Trump, they want to debunk it. It's not true. It's false, And so I think, DML, the whole thing right here is why me and you are sitting here right now, is to be able to talk about this without worrying about what anybody is going to think, because we're not here to say this is what happened, this is true or that's true. We're here to talk about the stories that are out there, not hide anything, but keep everything out in the open. And I think that that's what the people want to hear. So this is a story, folks. Unfortunately, whether or not you are one of the people that think it's a conspiracy or whether or not you're one of the people that think it could be true, we're here to discuss all the facts, lay it all out there for you. And I think that that's, and that's what Hannity's trying to do. And I hope nothing happens. Because look, Fox has had O'Reilly and Hannity, who I believe have been pretty reputable, just like you said. He's one of the people that has dug into stories in his past. He wants to help people find the truth and know what's going on in our country. And for him to go out on a limb here, all of a sudden, with all of these tweets.
Harlan and I have been talking about this.
It's weird.
We've been talking about this. In fact, I wrote something the other day. I said, for Sean to start retweeting what Kim.com put forward, right? For him to start retweeting that, it's one or two different things. Either Sean has seen, heard, or touched enough to realize, holy cow. In fact, he tweeted game changer. He put out game changer with a hashtag. Or number two is Sean has lost his mind.
Yeah.
And is hinging his entire career on some Kim.com dirtbag.
Now let's see, but you know what? What if that's true? What if that is the case? And in, several months we find out that Sean's crazy. That is a possibility. But it's a crazy possibility, just as crazy as this conspiracy that everyone thinks is a conspiracy. They're both very weird.
They're very weird. And the problem I have with this is because I understand how television works. Sean said that his team is going to continue to hunt down the truth. They're going to, they're not going to talk about it anymore. I don't understand how his team is going to continue to hunt down the truth on this story, because the way that the television cycle goes, and you know this, is that you've got your team, you've got to produce every single night. It's like me saying, yeah, you know what, I'm going to stick Harlan on this, on Seth Rich. I can't. We got to put a show on every single night. I can't take him. I can't take you and say, hey, do me a favor, put the movie to the side, take everything else aside, start looking at this Seth Rich thing. I can't. That's not the team he has. He's not an investigative reporter. He's an opinionist who goes out and does additional reporting. And that's why I've always liked Sean, and that's why I think he has a lot of credibility. Sometimes he might defend Trump a little bit to the nth degree. All right, but he's entitled to his opinion. But he's never really come across as something like, I'm saying, like an Alex Jones. You know what I mean?
Right.
Who's just, Sean really is a truth seeker. And I don't even want to take this too much to make it about Sean, but here's the sad thing. And I hate saying this, but it's 100% true. This Seth Rich story, it's over. It's buried. It's dead. Because Sean Hannity was the last guy with enough wherewithal to go get it. Now, I was reading something here on the stories that were going, the comments that were going through, and somebody says, oh, Project Veritas. Same thing. Project Veritas is going to have the same issue. And the reason why he's going to have the same issue as at Kim.com is that because everybody discredits Veritas because they say it's all creative editing. You know, you need somebody who's got an incredible amount of credibility, an unbelievable platform, an enormous amount of money, and nothing else to do than just be on this. And unfortunately, there's nobody that comes to my mind that has all of those boxes checked. Sean Hannity was the one guy. You know, if he really wanted this, he's got a ton of money. It's an endless boat of money for him. He could actually go and in fact, if I were Sean Hannity, there's a part of me that would go hire somebody as a private investigator on my behalf to go do it simply to make it so this way I clear my own name. You know, and that's the way it goes. All right, we ran over 5 minutes here. All right, well, the very talented Scarlett Fakar here with us. She's going to be with us again tomorrow. Yep. Tomorrow we'll see whether or not we can't get you, me, and Harlan all together during the walk and talk session. But we will be here again tomorrow at 11:30 here on Facebook Live. Make sure that you send us any questions that you have. You go to the DennisMichaelLynch.com. You hit the Submit News. Give me your comments. Give me your thoughts, whatever it may be. I had also read some of the comments that were here on the feed, and I just want to pull out my nasty face. Periodically, people forget the rules. I never do. If you write anything that's rude or disrespectful to myself, my guests, my co-hosts, whatever it may be, not only are you deleted, you be banned. And so at the end of the day, the name on the door is mine, not yours. And if I want to tell the person who's on the other end to move through and answer the question that I gave succinctly because I'm against time, that's what I'm going to do. And if you don't like it, there's a lot of different Facebook Lives out there. So I want to address that because we keep a very professional, we keep a very nice, we keep a very clean page here. That's it. I have zero tolerance for it. Anybody who says anything to the different, you are gone. And that's really that simple. I hate to end a great show with a bad message, but that's what it is. Just want to put out a reminder there for you. So if you put out a message that was really nasty, you may want to go in and find it if you want to continue with us, because other than that, you're history when I go to look at this later on today. So that's that. As for the rest of you who are loyal and come in here every single day, I hope you enjoyed. I know you always ask me about, where's Scarlett? Where's Scarlett? Well, here's Scarlett. And
I flew in.
There you go. All right, so thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you got some really good information today, not only about what's going on with terrorism in Manchester, but also the stuff with Seth Rich. So, you know, it looks like Hillary Clinton and the Democrats are going to get away with yet another one. All right, until tomorrow, God bless you. God bless our troops. God bless the President and these United States. And God bless Seth Rich, because whether he was killed by a mugger or killed by somebody who was paid off by somebody else, at the end of the day, he's still a young man who lost his life when he shouldn't have. That's that. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. So Scarlett's up here in New York from Texas. She's actually staying with her dad. He's right in New Jersey. And so she's up here with us now for the next 2 days, and we're going to be going over a bunch of different stuff, like They Come to America 4. She's spearheading that whole thing. Yep. But also about some of the other stuff we're going to be doing. She's making some commercials today for us. And we have been testing Harlan on the Hill. So we're also going to bring her in to do some of that stuff as well later on. In fact, we're going to play a clip from one of our tests of Harlan on the Hill, only because it is relevant to the stuff that we're going to be discussing today. So, all right, so we're over 2,000. So at that point, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. And like I said, Michael Cutler is with us via Skype. He's waiting for me to introduce him in, but I want to outline a few things here for you. Number one, I want to start off with showing a picture of some of the victims that, look at those lives lost over in Manchester, UK. I mean, you look at the faces there, you look at the life and the happiness and the smiles that are radiating, and you just have to ask yourself the question of why? Why did these people lose their lives? So unfortunately, I could answer that question for you with the next picture. Here is our friendly terrorist in the name of Allah. Can we throw up his picture, please? Yeah, Salman Abedi, 22 years old, son of Libyan refugees. You know, everything is in the name of Allah. We're going to be talking about all the signs that this guy had given, so this way the UK could have prevented this sort of thing. But as Michael Cutler is going to tell you. All right, everybody, just hang in there. We're going to be live with you here in a second. We've got a great show today. We have Michael Cutler is going to be joining us, former INS agent. We're going to be talking to him a lot about not only what took place in Manchester, what continues to unfold in Manchester, but how that is going to convey itself here at home, which I think is the most important part of all. Also, we're going to have in here with me is Scarlett Fakar. Maybe most of you know her. She's been doing the DML reports here for quite some time. And hold on, you got it? Okay. And so Scarlett will be joining us in a second. She's getting herself all wired up and everything else to that nature. And, you know, we may touch into some of the stuff that the president is doing right now with the Pope. The fact that the Pope handed him a book on climate change is pretty interesting. But give me a second. I have to send out the alert here for everybody who's on the app. All right, the email daily starts now. All right, we're going to talk about terror. Scarlett in studio. All right, in studio. Okay, Dennis can spell it sometime. And Michael Cutler. All right, and starts now. Tweet. All right, so we have that. All right, well, before we introduce Michael Cutler is going to be, he's going to be with us. I am looking at the numbers. We're about 1,400 right now. That will jump up to 2,000s pretty quick. Let me bring in Scarlett Fakar. What are you going to go, camera 3? Tim? There we go, Scarlett. So there's your camera right there.
There it is.
All right,
hey.
So about what was taking place in the U.S. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to bring in Michael Cutler. Michael Cutler is joining us via Skype. He is a former INS agent. He has spent decades and decades and decades on the immigration issue. He is, as far as I am concerned, the single #1 source for this sort of thing. I trust what he says immensely. He has been on this show before. He's been on this show. People have told me, we love this guy. The information he has is unbelievable. He has been in all of my They Come to America movies, and we're making another one, and I'll tell you, he'll be in that one as well. In fact, we may use today's segment as part of my film. That being said, Michael, let me, before you say hello, Michael, and then Scarlett's going to have some questions for you. Let me say a few things here, and I want you to respond to them, okay? Number one, and my audience knows how much I absolutely adore and appreciate first responders. My entire family is made up of firemen. My entire family is made up of police. I have nurses, you name it. This is not, this woman, Theresa May, she's a nut as far as I'm concerned. For her to say there that the responders show that cowards will always fall to bravery because of first responders, and that good will always beat evil, and that, you know, everything going on is, you know, UK will prevail. You know what? Those first responders should be dealing with heart attacks. They shouldn't be dealing with bombs going off. They are failing. There is nothing proven by fixing people's limbs being off their body and picking up the dead that says we're winning this game. As far as I'm concerned, it's showing that the evil is beating the good and that the cowardless are beating the brave. I'm so disgusted with this sort of...
Responsible for setting the threat level on the basis of the intelligence available was keeping the threat level under constant review. It has now concluded, on the basis of today's investigations, that the threat level should be increased for the time being from severe to critical. This means that their assessment is not only that an attack remains highly likely, but that a further attack may be imminent.
Yeah, you know what? That woman reminds me of Obama. She's like a female Obama with her statements. We'll get to that, you know, cowards and all this other different stuff. But we'll get that in a second. I'm laying out my case here. All right? Now, I want to replay a statement from President Trump yesterday, or I should say on Sunday, when he spoke to the Muslim leaders in Saudi Arabia. Play.
Out. Drive them out of your places of worship. Drive them out of your communities. Drive them out of your holy land. And drive them out of this earth.
Okay, drive them out. Remember that phrase, drive them out. Next, we're going to put up a statement from the Department of Homeland Security. Please put it up and I'll read it. Do we have the statement from the Department of Homeland Security? I'll start reading it. At this time, we have no information to indicate a specific credible threat involving music venues in the United States exists. However, the public may experience increased security in and around public places and events as officials take additional precautions. We stand ready to assist our friends and allies in the UK. All right, I was more interested there. You know, we can't seem to stop this stuff because we've got our head buried in the sand. I'm going to bring him in a second to talk about that. I also want to bring up some stats that we had yesterday, which are very, very important for our conversation today. If we could bring up the stats of the number of, yeah, we go, terror in the UK, 3,500 potential terrorists right now in the UK, 400 of which are believed to be trained fighters from ISIS. 400 and 3,500. We know the numbers, but we can't do anything about it, right? That's unbelievable. Next thing. I'm going to play this clip. I'm going to play it in its entirety because it's very important to hear what this woman, Theresa May, has to say about what is happening right now in the UK. All right, so let's play that clip from beginning to end. Go.
This morning about the professionalism of the emergency services and the bravery of the people of Manchester. Through their actions, they proved that cowardice will always be defeated by bravery, that evil can be overcome by good, and that our values, the liberal, pluralistic values of Britain, will always prevail over the hateful ideology of the terrorists. In my statement earlier today, I said that the police and security services needed to investigate whether or not a BD was acting alone. Those investigations continue, but the work undertaken throughout the day has revealed that it is a possibility we cannot ignore that there is a wider group of individuals linked to this attack. This morning I said that the Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre, the independent organisation